Welcome back to another episode of Tempo, a podcast brought to you by VanillaSoft and myself, Ollie Whitfield. Now, today I'm with a gentleman who I've met a bunch of times. He has experience like not many others. I'd like to put it that way. I'll let him do the talking about that in a second. But Craig Herman, welcome to Tempo. How you doing, sir?
Doing well, Ollie. Thanks for having me on, and appreciate the introduction. It's a bit to live up to. So yeah, I'm looking forward to our chat today.
My pleasure. So we were just saying before we hit record here, you've just spent, was it 5 weeks on the road? Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the great things about being part of Aware and leading our go-to-market is I get to get out and visit with our customers across the globe. So, you know, biometrics is really a fascinating area to work in, and it is really, you know, in different parts of the world it's used very differently. So I was able to spend some time in Istanbul with some of our Turkish bank customers. Then Brazil with both our financial services customers, but also spent some time at a conference for gaming. Online gambling is about to just take off. It's just been approved and legalized in Brazil, so it is a fascinating time down there right now to see not only what's happening with Brazilian companies, but also international companies that are going down there and establishing platforms and other pieces for gaming, and then, you know, again, coming back and in spending some time in DC with again a lot of our federal clients. So yeah, it was a great 5 weeks. Was able to get in a little family time as well out in Death Valley and Los Angeles, which was Death Valley was a first for me. So fascinating 5 weeks. So yeah, but happy to be home.
Yeah, I bet you are. Yeah, that's a lot of hotels, a lot of airports. And we were just kind of saying it's a bit like when athletes say they've been here and there and everywhere. Well, they've been to the airports and the hotel rooms and the venues, but they rarely get outside. Sounds a little bit like what you were saying too.
Yeah, Marriott's all look the same, you know, everywhere you go. So it's one drawback.
Not those airline points though, and those hotel points for sure.
That's for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Good stuff. All right, so we didn't really talk too much about your role through that little introduction there, but yeah, tell me about what being your chief revenue officer, aren't you? Tell me a little bit about what that's like.
Sure. So, you know, the role here and also the CRO role is unique, sometimes based on the company. You know, it is depending on what the go-to-market looks like and things along those lines. Here, coming in, you know, this is a company, Aware has been going through a transformation over the last 4 years, where moving more from a project build software company to a product build, meaning going from building something to spec for a specific customer versus building products that the market needs and selling them to many customers. And that is really a big piece of this role is part of that change. And so, you know, product obviously is forefront, but as we get to see, you know, when you move from that type of model to the model we're now in and the subscription-based model, things start to bubble up that are even much more important than what you've used in the past. So for us, you know, really a focus on customer success, which was a new motion for Aware. And so, you know, coming in as a CRO, it's okay, where are we able to increase things that we're doing well, and decrease things that are not going well. And one of the things that, you know, we were doing is we really didn't have a customer first mentality, a team that was very focused on making sure that when a customer signs up, they're getting what they want. They are feeling that they are seeing value every day from what we're delivering. And taking some of the weight off of the other people in the building to allow them to build product and to focus on where the roadmap is going to go. So customer success is a big piece of this role. And I am very lucky that we have a great customer success leader and a team that she has put in place and some amazing processes. The other piece, you know, obviously when people go to it, it is sales. So we do a model is we work with partnerships and as well as direct, and how can we do better on, getting into accounts, understanding what our ICP is, getting in front of the right people, and making sure that we have that in place. So the sales piece of this of the CRO, which is again Chief Revenue Officer, is where everyone drives, and again it is very much about putting a sales team in place, giving them the tools that they need, and a methodology around how we sell, how we position, and so much has changed in that space over the years. The other side of that too is the marketing, and so marketing is part of part of my umbrella, and connecting that with our sales and customer success to kind of get this holistic go to market. So again, that marketing is saying the same thing as sales. Sales very connected to marketing. And the other big piece is, Aware has been around for 30 years. So again, the past 4 years has been very much a big change for us. But we've always worked closely with partners, but we've never really had a formalized partner program or partner leadership. And so creating a partner program, an ecosystem now that is starting to build out with onboarding and enablement and marketing development funds, putting all of these things together so that we have different levers that we can pull so that we can obviously grow revenue, get in front of more customers, and take our word of Aware out there. So from a CRO perspective, it kind of it covers all of those pieces, and we have been building this up across each one of those, and it is a constant innovating and looking at what's working, experimenting with different things, and then doubling down when we see something that's really getting traction.
Okay, so just a few things for me to pick at. I'm going to do well to keep all of this stuff within the time that we've got. But before I go into to any of those specific areas, that's a lot of different functions that you're talking about. Obviously, there are people that roll up to you who handle those functions individually. But how do you find just dealing with that cadence of every week and every month, where you're going to have certain projects across vastly different functions? I mean, a CS project is a very different thing to a sales project, to a new marketing project. That's a lot of well, I can't think of the word I'm looking for here, but a lot of context switching is what I was trying to say. How do you manage that? Because that's a lot of people, a lot of different contexts. You've got time zones as well, being a global company, so that's also maybe a challenge. Not sounding too easy, Craig.
Yeah, coffee helps. That's a big caffeine is a big helper. Kidding aside, and I'll bring it back. It is having the right people in place, right? I am, I'm very blessed, and then I've got some really strong folks that are leading these efforts, and so it is, my kind of mantra, or kind of my theme, what I kind of envision when I bring people on is I kind of lay out where I think we should be going. We talk through it, and then they execute. And my role as a CRO is to put people in place to be successful in what they're trying to accomplish, right? And so sometimes that is getting them the resources they want. Sometimes it's getting some things out of their way that are preventing them from getting to what they want to be, and what they want to execute on, as well as providing direction, or in some cases the devil's advocate of hey, have we tried it this way? Why wouldn't we do this? And just kind of bumping it up against things. And I think that it is I have been lucky in that I have, in my career, have sat in almost all of these roles as either a day-to-day or a leader. And, marketing specifically, I spent about, 15 years of my career, selling into the marketing channel and the CMO suite. So really understanding how that works has been very helpful in my career. And I do think having experience in those places really does help with being able to kind of add some context, bounce some things off, and iterate on things as we go forward. So one-on-ones are a key piece of everything. We also do, we have quarterly plans and execution plans that we have specific areas where, times where we're reviewing specific pieces. So for me, time blocking is essential to be able to make sure that I'm spending the right bandwidth on the right thing at the right time. And I know that seems really precise, but that is kind of constantly what I'm trying to do, so that I'm not jumping from having a marketing conversation to a partner conversation. But really, my role is to connect all of these pieces so that everyone is working on the same outcome, and that in the end is driving revenue. So you can have the best marketing campaign, you can have the best sales methodology, but if it's not producing pipeline and not producing closed revenue, it's not working.
Got it. Yeah, I've really noticed the power of my calendar of late. I tried, like you said, to be as prescriptive as I can. It looks overkill when you look at it, but I actually see it more as a reflection of what I was doing than what I am. A little bit of both, to be honest. So then it's good for me to know as well that I context switch too much here. I didn't spend a day doing that. And equally, the big rocks that I'm trying to focus on, if they aren't there, they just get kicked down the road a bit until they become a panic button. So I get that you do that. And equally as well, it's pretty clear when you see a CRO who's not got that much experience in one area, one facet, because most people are a sales or a marketer focused person. Mostly that's what a CRO is. But if you've held kind of all of those roles in tandem for even an equal time, that really, really helps. Because how many marketers I know who don't know how to sell because they haven't been a salesperson, and then they get handed salespeople. That's difficult. So that's interesting. But you hinted at some one-to-ones. You hinted at quarterly planning. So what's your cadence for all of those recurring meetings? What do you have on the diary, and how often does it come up?
Sure. Yeah. So one-on-ones are weekly with all the leaders. I then have monthly with individual contributors. So I try to make sure that I'm at least touching base with folks. We're not a massive team here, so again, we're about 40 folks. So it's not massive, but weekly one-on-ones. We do biweekly, annual, biweekly all hands with the revenue team. And then, from each team is also having their own team calls. We also, have some very specific things that we do. We have employee success plans that we're reviewing on a quarterly basis that are very matched up to their specific goals, which drive up to the team, which drive up to the company goals. So how are we watching that? How are we working together on those, as well as engagement planning? So, I look at our employee success plans, or these plans, as much more a goal oriented. Like, these are what we're going to do, and these are some of the things that are gonna get us there. Engagement plan is really something that takes us the next step down, and that is, what is the action on a day-to-day basis that needs to happen for us to get up there, and having that in place and using that on a pretty consistent level when we're having discussions is extremely helpful. So those are some of the pieces, but I don't think it's much different than, I think, a lot of what you see. We get together on a quarterly basis in person with the leadership team as well, just to try to do that. But most of our team, to your point, is international and remote. So we do a lot via what we're doing right now, Zoom and Slack and things along those lines. But for the most part, those one-on-ones are pretty essential.
Okay, so in the next 10, 20 minutes, I'm going to try and go through each of the functions that you said. We're going to try, no promises. But starting off with sales, the obvious one, the nature of the vastly different clients that you have, both in what they are like. You kind of mentioned governance, and then you mentioned banking in Turkey. You mentioned, like, there's such a spectrum through knowing you. I know that that's true. How do you deal with that being so broad? because you could have verticalized reps or teams, you could have regional reps and teams, you maybe even have both. Let's say there's a really big deal and they kind of want to have someone like you come on to kind of solidify that deal. Well, what if it's a Turkey time zone? You've got all of these things that could happen. How have you got it structured, and how can you manage that?
Sure. Yeah, we have it primarily structured by geo. So again, we've got a great Brazilian team that is really leading our Latin American efforts. We have and that includes account management, and then we've got folks in the EMEA, Middle East as well. So for the most part, it's geo, but then we have we have a person very focused on federal. Federal is just such its own animal, right? Where it is the quintessential, Rolodex network is just so vital, and we're very lucky to have some great resources there. And then we've really, as I was talking about earlier, experimenting with some things. And so this year, we've really doubled down going into the gaming and gambling sector and seeing some really positive traction. And we have a rep that is pretty much solely focused, I say, but a few things outside of that on the gaming market. And we're trying to see, again, where what is having the biggest impact. And I think you can put a person in the United States that speaks Spanish and have them sell into a Latin America market. I just don't believe in it. I don't believe it happens that way. I think there's a cultural aspect of all interactions that you miss out on. And so having people in that at least geography, meaning that side of the world, helps considerably. And for what we do, it is a very complex thing. It is very technical. It is a longer sales cycle, very much a relationship based. A lot of education when it comes to biometrics and how it's used, how it should be used, and things along those lines that lend itself to really them trusting who they're talking to. And I think a lot of that trust comes from really understanding the where they're from. So for us, first and foremost, it's geo, and then we kind of break it down from markets from there.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, because you can have verticalized, but you still got global problems for everybody. So I can get that. What about the CS team? Because presumably you hire it in accordance of what time zone you need the most coverage. Is that kind of how you run it?
So actually, all of ours are based here in the U.S. For the most part, we do have folks in Latin America. So, but right now we're running everything out of the U.S. and Latin America. And the key for customer, in our world for customer success is the interaction with our engineering and development. So we have support where people can log tickets, and obviously that is 24/7. But when you start to get into folks kind of doing QBRs, quarterly business reviews, and things along those lines, the ability to have access to technical resources very, very close is really key. So we have folks managing our global customers in the U.S. We have some in Latin America. We'll continue to build it out. But again, it does work because, again, the dependence on the team and really understanding what are the value, what's the value drivers that we want to present and bring with our customers wherever they are. So, and as we continue to build out the partner channel, that is something that will definitely extend into these geographies as well.
Just going back to sales for a moment, as you mentioned right at the start, there's been a kind of behavioral shift of how are you selling what you're selling, being from one type of model slightly to the other. Have you, I don't know if this kind of has been a very long-term project or the last couple of years. Have you found any behavioral issues with that, or has it been a project? Have you managed to deal with that really well? Because a lot of the time, this isn't every salesperson in the world, but they want to sell the thing that they've been selling, and change is scary because it might work less well or it might work better, but they don't know that. And there's all of the things they're used to doing. They have all these documents that they use and they work. Something different can often mean bad in their minds. Has that been a challenge at all?
Yeah, it in some ways, I think it's more of a mindset change, and I think that's not so much the methodology and kind of how you sell, but really the mindset of the flexibility that comes with selling something that to a number of different industries, number of different areas, but also the configuration instead of the customization. And I think when you're building when you're selling something that has not been built and you're building it to spec, that's a very different sales process than something that's already built. And you're trying to make sure that the problem that they have fits the solution that we have, right? And I think that is a big change. The other way is much more kind of taking on all the things and the requirements that are needed versus that. But we also have a division that is very focused on law enforcement. So that's a really interesting one because they kind of do a combination of both and very focused. The ICP is very clear. The personas are very clear. They're the same, right? They haven't changed. The way that the product is used has not really changed. But now with the cloud and some of the things that advances we've made, the actual product is different. So how do you position it? How do you educate folks on why something that wasn't built custom is actually better? Because again, when you update this product, you're updating it for everybody. You don't have to go out and deliver an update, like just as an example. And I think that's where, going back to salespeople or educators is first and foremost, no matter what vertical or what you're selling, that's the first and foremost. Because right now in this world, I can find out just about anything. What I can't do that easily is connect, my business, my problem to the right solution. And I think that's really where our folks come into play.
Has that been a marketing problem as well? Because for the most part, a lot of companies who sell one thing one way, a lot of software is like that. You'll get not a fit, you'll get wrong timing, pricing problems. I'm sure you've had those previously before, but not as much the no fit when we're building something. Has that been a bit of an adjustment?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's still a very, there's a lot of folks that are still, building, by spec, right? And so, not only are we selling why Aware is better, but also why the model is better, and also, biometrics in its sense, can be used across the board in a lot of different ways. So also, our view on biometrics, how it should be used, how permission is first and foremost and key to it, and why we're really using it for authentication, not for identification, and how those two things are vastly different. Because I talk about facial recognition to someone, and I jump into black box stuff, finding me in a taking my face and sharing it across the world, right? Versus, hey, I just want to be able to log into something without two passwords or a text going to my phone. I just want to log in really easy. So it is, again, that education piece is huge.
All right, good stuff. I got one last thing, and then we have two questions, and then I'll let you out of here for Friday afternoon lunchtime. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
When you talk partners, what do we mean? Do we mean channel partners? Do we mean collaborative? What sort of collabs are we talking about?
Yeah, so we a lot of all of it, right? So when we look at our space, especially with Aware, a lot of folks, I may be a hardware provider of a scanner or things like that. We're going to OEM our products and our different components. Our product is really built out in a few different ways. One, it's a pre-built in the cloud. The workflows are already done. You just plug and play and off you're running. We have another one that can be configured for almost any type of workflow, that can be on premise, that can be in the cloud. That is, something that partners really gravitate towards because they can really kind of build it very much for their for their customers, and that's unique. And then what makes up these two products is really a lot of these components, right? So, hey, I just want, I want the best liveness, I want the best face matching. I'm just going to use these two pieces, right? Or you know what, I want voice recognition only. I want to use that piece, and being able to kind of layer that in to my overall product. So you asked previously how tough that is from a marketing perspective. This is why it's so tough, right? We're talking to a lot of different people, and the same with partners, right? It is, you come back to, whether it's an MSP, whether it's a system integrator, or a company that's building a software product or hardware. All of those are really good channels for us from a partner perspective, and all of them add a lot of value. Just redistributing our software is not really a model for us, because really folks are adding value to the biometrics, whether that's implementing, whether that's making it part of their product.
So you've got this kind of interesting channel through kind of white labeling, as it were, but on an ad hoc basis of what things they want to build and for who and when and why.
Yeah, absolutely. And then sometimes, that it's very clear that we're the platform, and again, we're trusted by governments across the globe, as well as financial institutions. So in many cases, we're adding credibility to that product by being a part of it. So that's a piece as well. And then we, also on the other side of the ecosystem is, we really see, there's so many ways that you can connect biometrics, whether you're talking in a specific vertical like gaming, where, hey, I want to know the credit score, I want to know some other stuff, I want to know the geolocation and things like that. We also want to make sure that we're partnering with folks that can plug and play via API, and having that kind of best of breed of, when we talk KYC, being able to do that really well, whether it's in Brazil, whether it's in London or the UK or US or Middle East, being able to do that. And sometimes you need different providers or different partners on the back end. And that's where having an open architecture is key for us. And having those type of partnerships as well, where it's, in some cases it's symbiotic, but in other cases it's we're just providing another service for our customers. So we really look at partnerships both ways. And again, that helps kind of broaden our platform as well.
All right, Craig, this has been really good, but now my favorite bit, and this is probably the hardest bit for you. So I'm looking forward to this. Doesn't have to be about Aware, but in your career for a couple minutes, can you walk me through a really difficult moment that you managed to turn around somehow? It could be the example I always say is a top performer left, or a really big deal blew up that you was absolutely banking on coming through, but you managed to save that quarter in the end somehow, or something like that. Does anything come to mind?
Yeah. There's a few here that I can kind of go to. I will say, one of the biggest I would say, I call it kind of like a failure, right, where you're learning from it, and it was really in my first role as a VP of sales. I came into a company, very much kind of a transformation. You kind of had to rebuild and putting in a methodology. And I was a huge, and still am a huge fan of Challenger, right? And the Challenger sale, and did this massive investment coming right out of the gates. Ball of fire, everyone's going to be on board with this, and didn't get buy-in from marketing, didn't get buy-in from the rest of the company, and also, it is Challenger is a very big investment of resources and time and education for reps, and it did not take, it did not stick, it didn't work, and it was an absolute nightmare. From just we spent a lot of time on it, and it just didn't take. And I guess the how I turned it around, one, understanding that when you come into an organization, everything is not a plug and play. You've got to understand the organization, what it's doing, how it's different, where the strengths and weaknesses are before you start to do that. But in that specific instance, what we were able to do was almost kind of slim it down so that we then took pieces of it, and from that kind of have built out my methodology that I use, that is a piece of Challenger, it's a piece of some other stuff. But instead of trying to say, you know what, we're going to fit this into it no matter what, now taking the methodology and making it work within the business. And I think that is that's kind of what turned it around, and that's helped me in my career as I've gone forward, because I do kind of take that with me and now use a version of it that we ended up implementing everywhere I go. And again, kind of based on the personnel, based on the markets, all those pieces. So I would say that was probably probably one of my bigger failures, but also probably one of the best learning moments that I've had, which, as we know, failure probably is the best teacher. So, but understanding that is a pitfall that so many leaders have gone into that I've talked to. So that was probably that's when that always pops up when someone asks a similar type of question.
Yeah, a really good story in one of the other episodes we recorded. Exactly the same type of story. New role, want to go in guns blazing, big plan. Let's bring everyone with us. No one came with us. Difficult type of problem. That's always a fun one. As my cat wants to say hello at the end of the podcast. So all right, Craig, I got some real quick fire questions for you, and then I'll let you out of here. You ready to go?
You got it.
All right. What is the highest number of cold calls you've ever made in a given day?
167.
167. That's specific. How do you know that?
Because it was a competition in one of my first roles in my first SaaS company, and it was a competition for that day. And there was probably, it was a sales role that was very BDR folk. It was very much a transactional type of sale, and so there was probably 30 of us on the floor, all at the same time, yelling, screaming, folks trying to hang up as you were dialing just so they could stay ahead. And it was one of the most stressful and competitive days, but also probably one of the most fun, and it's still in my head 20 something years later. So yeah, that's that. So, and also when anyone says, wow, there's no way that you can make 40 calls in a day, I always throw that one out there. So but that number has been beaten by people when we've done cold call days in the past. So
good number, good story. Another guest had something in the 500s. I was like, are you joking? Yeah. Like what? But you can achieve volume if you really, really want to. All right. What is the biggest deal that you've been involved in your career, if there's a dollar amount that comes to mind?
Yeah, I won't go into the company because I don't know if I can, if I should. So it was just over 35 million, and it was a recurring revenue opportunity. So multiple years, and it was, again at that time the largest in the company history. So yeah, and that was one that I was kind of leading from the front on. Absolutely.
And did you win it?
Yeah. Oh,
nice.
Yeah. No. Oh, I thought that was the question. What was the biggest one?
Oh, well, I mean, you could have had some closed loss that were bigger than, but closed ones, 35M is not too bad.
Yeah. No, I've never lost anything bigger than that. And I'm trying to think of my biggest loss. There's a couple. Yeah. There's a couple that were probably, about half of that we lost, but and a couple of logos that I do kind of have burned in my brain that we lost that I still think we should have won, but
35 mil kind of sweetens it. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. 0 from 100, 100 obviously being the best. Rate your cold emailing skills for me.
0 to 100. I'm I'm going to say I'm probably about, because I was just writing some. I'm going to probably say I'm about 60.
All
60.
right.
I'm above average. The problem is I don't do it as much. So
Yeah.
that's what's holding me back a little bit.
It's definitely a
But
muscle, isn't it? You kind of lose the fluency, don't you?
exactly. Exactly. And I would say the same with cold calls, right? Like if you put me, I don't do as many cold calls. I still do cold email outreach, usually very one-to-one stuff. But I would say 60%, and that's a whole different animal, because I think it's from a success versus a cold writing. I think that's the question. But yeah, no, that's a great question.
Okay, so you could probably guess what the next one is then. Let's say at your best, at your most fluent and practiced cold calling out of 100.
Oh, at my best, at my
Yeah.
peak. Yeah, 90 plus. I was up there. I was pretty good.
90 plus, not
Be,
90 plus 10 or 90 plus 0.
90, no, I would say over 90.
All
So
right.
say
All right, let's put it 90.
if I'm at 100, yeah. So no, the whole thing for me for cold calling was finding one thing and just talking about that right at the beginning, right? And I think that is so missed. What is the one thing that about their business that I can talk to, and hitting on that. And I think more times than not, if they, whether it's a competitor, or I know this company's doing this and you're not, or I heard this about, like, just getting them to kind of instantly think, and again, what's in it for them, right? Why should they talk to me? Not, do you have a sec? That has always resonated when it comes to cold calling and cold emailing. But I do think it's a little easier to do on a cold call, because you get that instant, like, yeah, that didn't hit. And then the next one, this is how I'm going to tweak it. Yeah. Yeah,
Good stuff.
absolutely.
Good stuff. What about your management skills out of 100?
I think you're going to have to ask someone else. I don't know. But no, if I was going to say it, again, I would probably say seven. I'm somewhere in the 70. Some days I would probably say I'm much below that. But I think, for leadership, it is a constant learning experience. Every day I am learning something new, whether that's through experience or something a conversation that I'm having with another leader, or something that I'm reading. So I think this is just one of those things where you'll never get to perfection, but that kind of pursuit to perfection is what makes it good.
Love that. Good stuff. All right. You've got a prospect in front of you, and you've got to choose between using social media to reach out to them, or you can send them a video. Which one would you do?
Why I can't send this? I can't say in a video via social media. So
You're smart. It's an email with a video.
got it. An email with a video versus social media.
Yeah.
Um,
Because that's the right answer, really. It's use the video on social media, but let's create a line between them.
Okay. I think I'm going to go with a video, and that the main reason being is that I do think that stops people in their tracks when they're looking through email when they see a video. Now, obviously, the content is the king for both of these, but yeah, I would probably go video in an email versus versus social media. But it's pretty close, because again, I think also the videos that you typically that a lot of people send are there needs to be something that does grab them, and I think that's been a challenge at scale with video in an email for me, and teams that I've led, is how do we make something really impactful, and putting it into a video that takes longer, and make it feel one-to-one, but scale it. And I think that's still a challenge for me.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean there. What time do you wake up in the morning?
I wake up at 6, so
6.
that's my time, and I usually get about an hour of me time before I kind of jump into the work stuff. So whether that's just kind of getting ready for the day, walk, exercise, things along those lines.
Good stuff. Okay. What was that dream job you wanted to be when you grew up as a kid? I always wanted to be a football player or athlete, that sort of thing. What was yours?
Gosh, the main one for me obviously there was a few, but I think it was architect was always one. Just always felt that was it always seemed like a pretty cool job whenever you saw it in a movie or a TV like that, and like advertising. But architect, just kind of building stuff and putting drawing things that then get created in real life. I always thought that was would be a cool job. And then the reality of just I don't have that talent, that DNA on the ability to draw straight lines and things along those lines are just not. I have a hard time with the visibility of seeing something on paper and then creating it into making it into a 3D structure. But I always thought that would be a cool job.
I didn't have a steady hand either, so I could never have done that. But we've had Batman, mathematician, fireman, astronaut, athlete, loads of things. But that's a good one. I wasn't expecting that. But you could maybe make a stretch to say you're an architect of an org design. That might sound a little bit of a stretch.
Revenue architect. I like to use revenue architect.
That's a good one. Yeah, that sounds a bit closer than Batman. No shade to the Batman wanting to grow up person at all, but you came a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Okay, last one.
Absolutely.
Who could you recommend to have on this podcast for us? Who do you think would be really good?
Tom Stearns.
There we go. I know Tom. He's a good guy. Let's have him on.
Yeah, he would be great. You'll love him. Big fan.
Done. All right, Craig.
And Batman would be a good guest. That's who you gotta get.
Don't know if I'll get a hold of him, but I will try. And if I do, I'll let you come on and we can do it together. Good stuff.
Absolutely.
Craig. All right, before you jump,
Hey,
where
Ollie,
can people find and follow you, connect with you?
Sure, absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn, obviously, Craig Herman. I'm on Twitter at Craig A. Herman. Again, obviously Aware. We are, again, biometrics focused on basically increasing security while reducing friction for customer experience. So if you are looking or thinking about what's going on in the biometrics market, we are a great resource.
There you go. All right, everybody.
Aware.com.
Greg and I are going to talk about Batman for a couple more minutes, but I will leave you with this. Hope you enjoyed the episode. There's plenty more to come. Let us know with a message or a like or a comment what you thought, and we'll see you on the next one.